You know, Ian, I often wonder why I was created. What my purpose is for being here.
Uh, good story, bro. Dies, gets shot. There you go. That's her backstory. I get to be Maria.
I don't like the implications of that, but
And then whenever you get on the next podcast and you go, I'll give the world what Ian promised me. Stupid, shitty comic reviews. Whoa! Then I come back to life as a ghost. Anyway, what are we doing today?
We're talking about the shadow manga. It's
what?
yeah, there's a shadow manga. It's good. It's out and it's good. Yeah. There might have been some controversy around this actually. I don't know. I went back on Twitter for like a day and immediately regretted it, but I saw there was some stirring about people like leaking parts of this, or you know anything about that, Ian?
It's never coming to America anyway, so
yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. But regardless, yeah, we're here. We have some some fans were kind enough to translate it. It's by who did it? I know the mangaka was pretty active online and was like talking about stuff. We should give them some credit. Who was it?
I don't know.
Let's look it up. Shadow manga author, I guess. No, that's Shadow's house. God damn it. I should have known Shadow manga. There's probably a lot of mangas with Shadow in them. Hold on. Shadow the Hedgehog manga author. Yuki Imada.
Well done.
Yeah. He did a thing. And this is the worst. Is this the worst thing we've ever done?
No. Continue.
So yeah, they did this. They released the manga. They released the first chapter, and basically, depending on how long we ramble about this first chapter, either I'll release this as its own thing, and we'll talk about the chapters as they come out, or I'll just stitch them all together, and it'll be one big thing. Depending on when you're listening to this, you probably know what the choice we made was.
Indeed.
Anyway, so yeah, let's just
You're falling apart at the seams this episode.
I know. So for some context, audience, we recorded a full episode of Sonic Comic Chaos right before this, so we're kind of loopy right now. But it's good.
Okay. That's what the people come for.
Is it?
At least one guy.
That's true. But yeah, Sonic
Shadow Comic Chaos.
Yeah, Shadow Manga Chaos.
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
I was trying. So it's called Shadow the Black Jet Hedgehog. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, let's just do the full rundown and we'll talk about it as we go. So we start many years ago on the Space Colony arc, where the Biolizard's just going ham. So I guess we could talk about it, like the canonicity of this at the end, because it's interesting. Because there's nothing in this that really expressly prohibits it from being canon, but if it's one of those things where it's like, if this is canon, it opens a lot of interesting questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes and context for the lore that people could be happy for one way or the other. I personally really like it, but I was never too attached to Game Shadow anyway. But I'll bring up the concerns when we get to them.
Yeah. But so actually we find out that these experiments just like going wild is like a regular occurrence on the arc. And Shadow's like job basically is just to like put them down when they get out of hand, which like,
well, that's the Biolizard.
Yes, this is the Biolizard, but I think they say at some point like he does this like a lot. Like this is a recurring thing he does.
Biolizard gets really annoying, and you got to kick it in the face.
Yeah, so so it's like it's pretty funny. But yeah, he comes, he kicks it in the face, and those scientists are like, "Whoa, Shadow, you're so cool." He's like, "Am I so cool? I don't know. Am I the coolest? I don't know.
Am I the coolest?"
Yeah. Well, and it's something that's interesting that we see in this that I don't see talked about a lot with Shadow, but it is true that before we see Shadow in the games and before like he's on Earth doing his thing, like doing his revenge quest with Maria, he already was like conflicted about his identity. Like in the flashbacks, we see him being like, "Why was I created? Like, what is my purpose?"
Yeah, which
And
in SA2 they show, but one of the things that so this is the first concern I heard from people is you know, a lot of people, since we didn't know too much about his life with Maria, kind of more pictured as like, yeah, like they have fun, like they have little adventures on the arc. And they kind of like hint towards that with like obviously Maria is always like kind of dragging Shadow along, but some people like to imagine like Shadow wasn't always a grumpy guy, you know? But now this kind of confirms he always was. So it's interesting. It's like it's kind of it finally cements that, you know.
yeah,
But
which I think
I'm fine with it.
he's grumpy in the way that like a normal guy is grumpy. And I think that the interesting part of this is that so that whole identity crisis angle that we see from Shadow and SA2, they build upon it here because as we see in the preview of Dark Beginnings, they're canonizing Maria's illness now, which might not seem like a big deal, but for those of you who maybe are less insane about this than me and Ian are, Maria's illness was never referenced in the games until
you had to find it in the guidebook.
You had to find it in the guidebook. You had to find it in Sonic X. So they're using her illness and Shadow's inability to cure her illness to kind of drive this whole feeling of purposelessness that Shadow has here. Because the idea they bring up is Shadow's like, I was built to do this one thing. I was built to cure Maria. I was built to, so my blood could go into her and make her better, and it didn't work. So where does that leave me? Like, what is my purpose if I can't even do that?
Now I'm just kind of stuck up here on this flying ship doing nothing.
Beating up lizards. Also, in this panel where Shadow is like transferring his blood to Maria, Gerald is literally like on the ground on his hands and knees. What the? He's really not taking it well.
It was really dramatic. I still hear the doctor's weeps in my dreams.
Yeah. But so Shadow's angsting about that, and then who do we see but Maria? Who is adorable in this.
Yeah, she's really cute.
And one thing that's interesting is that because Maria, why do we care about Maria in the games? And you have either two answers to that. One is you don't, or because Shadow cares about her. But we don't know anything about Maria. And in fact, I not to get too sidetracked, but years ago I made a video about various different Sonic ships. And the point I brought up about Shadow and Maria was that because we know absolutely nothing about them, about Maria and about what their time together was like, you can really read any coding into their relationship, be it romantic, be it sibling coded. Obviously, although one interesting thing and something I thought about recently is that now that they're bringing Maria back and more stuff, they're like kind of confirming that no, Maria was like a child, like 12, 13. So it's like, oh, they probably weren't in a romantic relationship then, hopefully. Hopefully the Shadow shippers are doing okay. Someone should probably check on them. But regardless, the broader point I was making is that in this, even with the small amount of time we're spending with Maria, it gives us a reason to care. It gives us a reason. So when she dies, we're sad just because we spend a little bit of time with her and we see that oh, well, she's sick and she's probably going to die, but she wants to uplift Shadow and she wants to show him the earth and the stars. And I just think that does a lot to make us care about her and make us care about,
they do a lot in a very little time. And it's because you don't really need a lot to care, to have empathy and sympathy for other people. You just kind of have to put it in your story. And I think a lot of stories somehow fail to even do that. But this, it really nailed it. Just something as simple as they look at the sunrise and Shadow's like, what? It's the sunrise. It's the same one every day. And she's like, yeah, isn't that amazing? It's like, there you go. It gives this idea. And she's also very kind of flowery and really looking at the big picture. So you can see this is someone who, they know they're going to die. And they're kind of looking at the world through this very whimsical, magical lens, and that contrast Shadow. It's good stuff.
It's very good stuff. But yeah, so she's I feel like there's a okay, no, it's later. But so yeah, so they're looking at the sunrise and Maria's like, dude, that sunrise is fucking dope, isn't it? Then she passes out. And then okay, Ian, I think some of the word balloons might have gotten switched around. I don't know if your version had this, but it seems so there's a line where it goes, I was created with the expectation of helping with with the treatment, and it didn't go well. Because of that, I've been struggling with the meaning of my existence, which all sounds like something Shadow should be saying, but the word balloons are all pointed at Maria.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There's some weird stuff.
I don't know. I assume Shadow is meant to be saying that. Either Shadow or Maria. I guess this line could kind of work for either one of them. Goes, I want you to see many beautiful things, kind things, strong things, and I hope you'll find them someday. And then I'm pretty sure Maria says this. There's a meaning to being born in this world.
Yeah.
And this will be important later. So Shadow is carrying Maria. He's like, all right, let's get you back to your room. He takes her back. And yeah, so we see that Shadow is basically like, yeah, his thing on the arc is kind of keeping the other experiments in check. And the other scientists are like, woo, Shadow, we love you. He's like, God damn, this sucks. But then one day, I've never really heard of this Shadow the Hedgehog character. I sure hope this whole thing he's got going on with the scientists and Maria, I hope it goes well. Hey, what are those ships approaching in the distance? That was a very funny joke, Ian. There you go. Jeez.
Sorry.
But yeah, so we all know. So Gunn shows up. They're like, "All right, we're gonna kill everyone." And then Shadow shows up and he like kicks them down like dominoes. It's a fun bit.
Yeah.
And I will say the art in this, I would say in a lot of bits isn't necessarily stellar. But it's stellar where it needs to be, and where it's not, it does the job. Is what I would say.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Like it's nothing. I mean, like you pointed out, there's parts of it that are a little more janky, but like it feels like charming, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, Shadow especially, there were some bits where he looked kind of weirdly off model. But yeah, so, but then, the soldier's like, all right, kill Shadow and kill the researcher. And then, the scientist, he's like, yeah, why are you killing me? Well, fuck Shadow? Who's Shadow? I don't know Shadow. Why are you killing me? I don't know this guy. Like, fuck Shadow. Kill him, not me.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good moment for I don't know, just like it's a very simple setup and payoff of the idea of like, wow, Shadow, we love you. You're so fucking cool. And then, as soon as their lives are in danger, like, yeah, that like talking dog that walks around the lab. Yeah, no, fuck that guy. Like, I don't care about him.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes to show Shadow, like, yeah, no, he really doesn't have a purpose and nobody cares about him, Yeah.
Well, and it sows the seeds of his hatred of humanity before even Maria dies. So like to him, it's like this is cementing in Shadow's brain, and he even says something like this, like there's one good person, and it's Maria. And so he just like hauls ass. He like tears through all the gun troopers to get to her. And then we get to, I will say, the way it's portrayed here is like, there's just like 100 gun soldiers all with their guns pointed at Maria. Like, I don't think you gotta worry too much about this one little girl. But basically he's like, but Maria's like, yeah, fuck Shadow. I don't know anything about Shadow. What do you mean? And Shadow hears
what I
like,
would say.
Yeah, well, basically, I think some of this might be like some janky translation. I'm not sure, but like basically the idea gets across of like she's saying these things, so she's basically like, hey, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to tell you anything about Shadow, and I don't want Shadow to come like save me because like I want him to stay away. Basically, like is kind of the impression I got. Very much. I mean, the first thing is just straight up text. The second thing is a bit of subtext.
Well, the idea is supposed to be they're like, where's this weird freaky monster? And she's like, I don't know of any, like, or it's like, I don't know who that is. I only know Shadow, my friend, But like the way it's like, obviously it starts is like, yeah, I don't know who that is. Like, that sounds awful. I don't know any monster. I only know Shadow. So it's kind of supposed to be like a flip of the script of like, you think like she's talking about Shadow, bad about Shadow, but no, she's saying like, yeah, the Shadow that you see, this like monster you're talking about, that's not who I know, And that's kind of the idea.
Okay. I see what. Okay, I didn't get that the first time, but yeah, she says, who I love the most is, he's always troubled, a little lonely, but really a kind boy, Shadow. So it's used. Okay. I did not get that, but that's
and that might be a relation, but also like, I think it really works because it fits with her kind of like flowery, just like the way she speaks and stuff. So it's still like it feels like it fits her character of being like, like, I know not of this monster Shadow you speak of. I only know of Shadow, my best friend. And it's like, heck yeah.
Well, and she's like, and I won't tell you anything about him even if I die. And the panel where she says that is fucking dope. Like she's like shouting and like the tears are like flying off her. Look, there's like action lines. Looks great.
Yeah, it's really intense. It's good.
Yeah, and then they're like, all right, fuck, just shoot the little girl. Who cares? And basically, Shadow's like, the things I mentioned earlier, beautiful things, gentle things, strong things, all those things that Shadow supposedly wants to see or that Maria wants him to see. Maria is all of those things. And so because of that, his purpose is to protect her. He says, I found the meaning of my existence. And he catches the bullet right before it hits Maria. So yeah, and then he just and then they're like, all right, I guess we're gonna shoot both of them then. And then Shadow just annihilates them in I really like this page where you see like 100 different shadows like taking down all the guys. Because and also definitely killing a couple of them.
Oh yeah, there's one guy who he punches, and then there's like a blast that comes out of his back.
Yeah, no, that guy's. He does the same with. He kicks a guy, and it has a similar effect, like in the center of the page. Like, no, those guys are dead. But I like this because, like, with super speed, you get a couple different options of like, oh, sometimes it's like, oh, they move so fast, like you can't see them, or like there's like after images. But I like this idea of like shadow speed, and maybe there's like some teleportation in here too. It's like he's like from their perception, he is literally everywhere at once, which is pretty cool. But then Shadow's like, yeah, fuck you all, you suck. And yeah, he gets Maria and he's like, all right, let's get you to a safe place. And then a gun soldier shows up and just fucking caps Maria.
It's a really funny looking kind of. It's like a tiny panel. It's like bam, and she goes flying.
But so a couple things of note. That moment I mentioned earlier where Shadow's like, oh, beautiful and kind and strong things. Those are Maria. I think it also kind of drives forward more this idea of like, again, for Shadow, Earth or Mobius or Sonic's world or whatever the fuck you call it, there's almost no loss in destroying it at this point because the one good thing or the thing that could have represented everything good in the world was destroyed. So, this idea of your world destroys everything good, and so it should be destroyed itself. I might be reading too much into it. I might be like first year fucking English majoring this, but I don't know. That's kind of what I read into it.
Also, Maria, like you said, like they're in this space colony arc, which is like above Earth, and the people who are coming to kill from Earth, like they came from Earth up here to take away the one thing that is literally set apart from Earth, is set apart in the space in an arc, which is like a very biblical, kind of looking or like wording. And it's like supposed to be like something that creates like life and all that stuff. I mean, there's always been a lot of like biblical kind of imagery and symbolism with like Shadow, like in 06, he's like literally like crucified basically, like his positioning and stuff. So I think like whether intentional or not in this story, that kind of connection has always been there with characters. It's cool.
And then one last thing we should know is that behind the gun soldier who shoots Maria is Black Doom's eye.
Yes. So let's talk about this, right?
Yes.
So,
well, and we should also mention earlier in the story, we see Doom's eye. It's under like glass, and Shadow goes, "Yeah, they used that fucking weird thing to create me." I don't know. Yeah, and then we see it here. But yeah, go on, Ian.
So I was gonna say, so I'm fine with this because the implication. So the implication, and it's not confirmed because we're still waiting for where this goes. The implication would be that Black Doom either possessed or influenced this guy to shoot Maria, right? Now, if that's the case, then that means that Maria was not killed from just kind of like a very basic, like, yeah, like they didn't want this weapon getting out and just a soldier shot her, right? And that feels it's more mundane, it's more simple, and that's kind of what makes it so effective is just like greedy military situation, or even Sonic X when they kind of elaborate on it. It was a scared soldier who didn't know what he was looking at, and he was told to eliminate these people. He didn't want to shoot her, and he did. And now he has guilt for the rest of his life, right? If you have Black Doom do it, then it's the type of thing where it's like, oh, all connected to this one person. Maria would have been fine because Shadow would have just taken care of it. But no, because Black Doom made this happen, then it all kind of functions. And I'm fine with that because I don't really care one way or the other about Game Shadow too much. But I can see that being really, really annoying for a lot of people because, again, what made Maria's like deaths kind of so like feel so real is it's something as simple as like, oh yeah, the military wanted to cover up the evils that they've done, so they were willing to kill an innocent little girl. That's not, even slightly close to reality. No, sure. So like, when you change it to like, oh, an alien did it, it kind of removes a bit of that darkness to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a couple different routes you can take with it. First of all, we do need to also, it's entirely possible this is Black Doom fucking with Shadow's mind.
Yes,
that like chapter 2 opens with it being like, yeah, Shadow, that was the shit that happened before, and I was
and now we're in like generations, basically.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that literally happens in Shadow the Hedgehog, where he makes him go back and relive Maria's death. But also, well, yes, there's definitely something more like visceral about the idea of just a soldier with a gun and a itchy trigger finger shot Maria. And, that guy has to live with it for the rest of his life. Shadow has to live with it for the rest of his life. And it's just this horrible, awful, real situation. Well, realer than a lot of things in Sonic situation.
Yeah.
And while I do think you lose something by taking that away, I think if we just assume, okay, Black Doom was behind it all, there is something interesting to be gained there about this idea of like Black Doom orchestrated everything. Like, he was like, okay, Gerald made me this weapon, but now I need to give the weapon a motive. I need to make it so this weapon wants to do what I want it to do, which is destroy everything and get me the Chaos Emeralds. So, I don't know, kill Maria. And then, literally in Shadow the Hedgehog, we get that moment where he's like, and it's in the trailer, it's like a really cool moment where he goes like, this will remind you what the humans did to you. This idea of like, this thing, the humans, there are enemies. Like, this shows that there are enemies. And so he kind of orchestrated this all from the start. I don't know. I think it can work a couple different ways. And also, like, I don't think it takes away from Shadow. Like, Shadow in SA2 is a villain because the military shot Maria. And now he's not a villain. So, like, it doesn't take away anything from that. I think it could build on things moving forward. But, like you said, I could understand why some people would be annoyed by it.
Yeah, because it is just deleting an aspect of the death.
Yes.
That we all have, whether you did or not, it's been the status quo of it for, like 3 decades. So, or, almost for Shadow anyway. So yeah, so it's something to consider. And we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
And, I will say I'm interested to see what chapter 2 is going to be because, and quite frankly, I won't say I would have preferred because obviously we haven't seen chapter 2 yet, but I would have liked a manga that was just like the arc days. But maybe there's some things of like, oh, we can't touch too much on that. I don't know. But also Dark Beginnings is coming out and that's doing some of the arc stuff. So who knows? But I guess maybe chapter 2 will be some like in the generations shit, like, where he's actually like going through the different like worlds, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
This is supposed to connect 2 generations, correct?
It's the prequel comic.
Yeah, so I think what's more likely is that it is Black Doom showing Shadow what happened. But we'll see.
We will see. But yeah, that's that. We'll come back and talk. Yeah, this is what, like 25 minutes, give or take with editing. So yeah, this is definitely long enough for its own thing. So yeah, we will come back and talk about chapter 2 when that comes out. But yeah, this was really good.
Yeah, it was really good. Like I was very impressed. And the art does a good job of like when it needs to be serious, it's serious. It does a good job of making Maria very endearing. It's good stuff. Like really good.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's funny. I said in the episode we just recorded that you all haven't heard yet, I said Shadow's characterization that actively kind of makes me less excited for Sonic X Shadow Generations. But seeing him like this, it's like, oh, maybe Shadow can still be good. Guess we'll see. But yeah, Ian, plug your shit. I don't know.
I mean, Waffles. I finally made a video. It's about Love Shinibio. No, that's not true. It's about Butcher the Rock. Anyway, bye.
Bye.